Hey guys, so this is going to be a very light tutorial on getting started with React Native for developing for iOS on Mac. So I'm going to change directories into my YouTube folder and I'm going to look up the React Native documentation. React Native. Okay, so you're going to click on the first link, facebook.github.io/reactnative, and these are the docs. Ton of good stuff in here. You want to make sure you're using the most current version. Right now is 0.42. You're going to hit get started when you're ready. And as you can see, my development is set up for mobile iOS and for development OS on MacBook. The first thing you're going to do is install Node. So I already have it installed on my computer. So I'll probably hit an error. Yep. We'll just wait for this. So once you install Node, you would only have to do it once. Yeah, so it says Node 7.7.2 already installed. The second step is you're going to want to install Watchman. Let's go ahead and do that, and it's probably not going to let me do it again since it's already installed on my computer. Alright, yeah, it's already installed in my computer. It says right there, already installed. And for Node, it says the same thing. But for you guys, it should go pretty smooth. Alright, so now we're going to download the React Native client. And I already have this installed too, but might have just upgraded mine. Alright, so the next step is to create our React Native project. So we're going to use React Native init and then the name you want your project to be. Make sure there aren't any spaces. JavaScript usually camel cases. So you want to do that if it's multiple words. So we just called our project new project. And this process takes a bit of time. Alright, and we're done creating the project. We get a little bit of instructions of how to run for iOS. So first we're going to want to cd into our project. So as you can see, it's there in our directory. Called new project. I'm going to open the code base on Atom, my preferred text editor. And so these are the files that it starts you off with, the skeleton of React Native. So you have a few things like iOS and Android, folders. If you wanted to touch native code, that's what you would want to go into. If you want to touch the Java code or touch the X code. Yeah, bunch of stuff for iOS. Okay, so here, this is the index.ios. So this is where your iOS project would start. So we already have some code in here, and the Android index.android.js is identical to the index.ios. So we're going to go ahead and run this. So on a MacBook, you don't have to install anything extra. Your computer should already have Xcode, so you shouldn't have any issues running this command right here, React Native run iOS. So this is going to open up a simulator and actually launch an iPhone emulator on your computer, and it's going to run your app. And you're going to see some nice little React Native messages like, welcome to React Native. So as we wait for this, I'm going to go ahead and start setting that up. Right. So right now it looks like if I want to code for iOS, I would need to be writing code into one file, and if I want to code for Android, I would need to be writing code into another file. So the whole idea of React Native is that I could write one code base. So I'm going to show you guys how to set this up so that that's in fact actually happening. So first I'm going to create a new folder called source. This is going to be where all the real code for my project is going to live. Inside of source I'm going to create an app.js file. You can call this whatever you want. This is just going to be the entry point for both iOS and Android. We'll call it app.js. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is take everything over from either the Android or iOS index files. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and copy everything, just selected everything, and I'm going to paste it into my app.js file inside my folders. Okay, so alright, so now we're going to go ahead and start deleting things. Alright, so we're going to do this to the Android file, and we're going to do the exact same thing to, so the iOS file is going to look identical. So the only thing that we need, alright, yeah, so we're going to delete this style sheet, and we're going to delete this component that's created too. The only thing we're going to leave is the app registry at the bottom. And on line 2, we're going to import app registry from React Native. We could even delete line 1. So I'm going to go ahead and import the component that we created in our app.js file inside of source. So it's called new component, new project. So we're going to go ahead and import new project from. Alright, so the dot and the slash means that I'm looking in the same directory. I'm going inside the source folder and I'm going into my app.js file. Okay, so we'll delete that. We don't need that either. Alright, so on line 4, we're going to want to give it a path. Well, actually, scratch that. We're importing new project, so it already recognizes what we mean by new project. It's going to look in that path that we gave it on line 2. Yeah. So our emulator is starting up. Okay, so right now it's emulating everything inside the index.ios file since we're running it on an iPhone. And as you can see, it works like an iPhone, right? We're just going to open up our app, which is under development. We're going to go into our index.ios, and we're going to get this looking exactly like the Android file. But I'm just going to show you guys that what's being rendered is in fact everything in the index. So I'm going to enable live reload so that when I save something, we see the changes immediately. So let's change this to say something else. Welcome to React Native. Let's say hello world. Mandatory hello world. And there you go. You see the change instantly. Super quick. Yeah, and I'm just playing around with the text a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and change the background color here to like a dark gray, and I'm going to change the color of the font to white. And you see those changes instantly. Let's change the header font color to white also. And yeah, so that's like a little on how to style. Okay, so let's get all this stuff in the Android file and let's paste it into the iOS file. So right now, what we're doing is creating one entry point for both iOS and index. All right, so as soon as I save this, everything that's being rendered now is from the app.js file in our source folder. So now we really have one code file, and this is the same file that would be rendered for both iOS and Android. So let's go ahead and make some changes. code base. We'll change the coloring too a little bit. It's like an off-white. If you wanted to create components, you probably want to store them inside a components folder inside of source. But today we're not going to fill that in with anything. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how to debug React Native. So we're going to we're going to hit Command D, and we're going to hit debug JS remotely. So what this is going to do, it's going to open up a file in your Chrome browser. It's going to allow you to debug. Let's go ahead and refresh this. Alright, so this is what it's going to pop up. So you would be able to, let's say you wanted to print something to the console. This is how you would do it. You would inspect it. It's going to give you access to Chrome developer tools. And we're going to want to hit console. So if you want to console log something, this is where you would see it. So you want to keep track of how things are running. So let's build a quick scenario right now. Okay, so let's start off by building your constructor. So a constructor function essentially is like an initializer. This is going to be the first function that runs as soon as your component is rendered. In this case, what's rendering is our new project component that we created. So in here is where you would want to classify, define any variables that you would want to be using throughout your component. Just throw a super in there. All right, so this is how we're going to create some some variables. All right, so we're going to call this .state. We want to do it in this format, and now we're basically going to assign a key value pair. So let's say we want to change some words on the screen when you click a button. So let's create this state variable called header and set it equal to a string starting. And what we're going to want to do is render this state variable in our view, which is inside the render and return. So yeah, let's create a function that changes the header from starting to something else. So we're going to want to create a function here. I'm calling it change header. We're going to write a method inside called this.setState. So in this, this is how you reassign a variable you created in your constructor. So we're going to reassign it to finish. So now what's left to do is to call this function. So how do we do that? Well, first, this is how you would use your state variables. So here I need to call this.state whatever the variable name is. In this case, it's header. And I put it in curly brackets so that it knows that I'm talking about JavaScript code. So yeah, so now on the screen you see that the header changed to starting. All right, so I'm going to import another component from React Native called Touchable Opacity. So this is basically like React Native's button. There's another one called Touchable Highlight, but what this does, it's pretty self-explanatory. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this stuff. We don't really need this stuff right now. And I'm going to create another component called, another element called Touchable Opacity. So whatever I put inside of here, it's going to be clickable. And this also gives us access to an onPress function. So we're going to put some text in here. We're going to call it press or something. Press. Okay. So now I'm going to define the onPress handler that Touchable Opacity specifically comes with. So to call a function inside our component, this is how you'd have to call it. You'd write this dot, the name of your function, and we want to bind this. So there could be a whole separate other video talking about what that actually does, binding this. But just know that it's essential for you to do. for now. Okay, so let's change some other things on this onPress function. So let's say we wanted to change the background color when you press a button too. Like, how do you change the styling? Um, so we'll show you how to do that. So we'll change it from a light gray to like a dark gray. Okay, so, oh, and this is how the error messages, you get some nice bright red error messages. Notice how it says 21.6:6. So that's telling you the error is on line 21, 6 spaces in. So the issue was that I was missing a comma. So I should have fixed it. We'll reload. All right, so we're good to go. All right, so you see, right now I pressed it and it changed the wording from starting to finish. So we know that it's functional. So now let's work on incorporating the background color that we define in our state variable. All right, so to do that, in React Native you can write inline styling. So we're going to go ahead and take everything that you see on line 40 to 45, and we're going to start writing it into line 28 in our style parameter, in our style prop. So we're going to give it this flex 1 that makes it resize to take up the space of the whole screen, justify content to the center, align everything to the center. Get this for you guys to be able to see it. All right. So now I'm going to throw in a background color. And here I'm going to set it assigned to a state variable. So the way I would call that is the same way as before, this.state. I don't need the curly brackets. This.state.background color. And I'm going to hit save. All right, so right now the state background color is set to gray. When I press it, it changes to dark gray. Yeah, so let's play with this a little bit more. Let's change the color of the font too. So we'll call it color. We'll define it in our constructor. We got a nice bright red error message. We'll take care of that in a second. So yeah, we'll start it off with black and we'll change it to white. Okay. And so our error messages should still be there. Right, so there's a comma missing somewhere. Token, comma, expected. Okay, so yeah, so it was right there in our style. We need to make sure that we separate those by commas. All right, so when we click on press, the color didn't change. Right, so we have the color being fed into the container, to the container element, to the outside view. We want to actually feed that to our styles inside our text element. So we're going to do the same thing as before. We're going to take everything that's being rendered from the welcome, line 55 to 58, and we're going to write it into line 37 into this, and we're going to feed it into the style prop. So we're going to give it the font size, keep everything consistent, text line is center, give it that margin 10. Notice how every time I give it some type of numbers, I don't put pixels or anything. I just give it a fixed number. I think it's automatically refers to pixels, so you can't do percentages or anything like that either. All right, and we're going to set the color to this.state.color. So this should change the color that the header comes in, and only the header. So right now it's black. Get rid of that warning. And right, so now it changes to white. If you wanted to be able to press it multiple times, you'll probably give change header an if statement. Say if header is starting, change everything to this, and if it's not, change everything to that. but we won't go too deep into this stuff. This is really just a little intro on what you can do and like how you can style in React Native. Um, right, so if you want to debug something, which I almost forgot about, let's say I wanted to debug something to make sure that I'm inside the method that I'm pressing on. So I'm going to write console log here. I'm going to refresh everything. I'm going to open up my Chrome browser and what we were running before. And when I hit press, as you can see, we are in fact inside that method. It does run. Tells us the line that it runs onto. You could even throw a debugger in here if you wanted. And so this would stop the code at that line where the debugger is placed. So we'll press and the debugger pops up in our Chrome developer tools. Yeah, it shows us everything. It shows us where it pauses the code also. If you want to continue it, I'd have to expand this a little bit. It's actually I think it's hiding somewhere the option to continue it. Yeah, but so this basically wraps up everything that I was going to go over this video. Make sure to like this video. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to see next. If you want me to go more in depth in things. Yeah. Thank you for watching.